We are going to look closely at the stories of two women who were married to some of history's absolute most righteous men, prophets, literally. And yet, despite all of that, they were ultimately destined for ruin. It's one of the striking narratives that just takes our general assumptions about family, proximity to holiness, and salvation, and flips them completely upside down.
Which brings us to the obvious question, right? What exactly went wrong here? We're going to investigate the stories of the wives of prophets Noah and Lot to uncover what on earth they did to seal such tragic fates, especially while living in such fiercely holy households. The foundational text for this whole shock comes straight from Surah At-Tahrim, chapter 66, verse 10. The Quran explicitly holds them up as examples for those who disbelieve. It clearly states they were under, meaning married to, two righteous servants. Yet they are explicitly, permanently labeled as traitors who betrayed them. Just imagine that for a second. Living side by side with a prophet, waking up in the same house, yet being fundamentally opposed to their entire mission. Now, you know what's profoundly interesting about this? Scholars point out a very specific detail. Their actual names do not matter. While some outside traditions might offer names, the Quran deliberately leaves them unnamed. Why? Well, because the omission itself is an active choice to veil their disgrace. Dr. Haifa Yunus points out in her analysis that concealing the names of those who commit shameful acts is actually a profound Islamic etiquette. It's the actions, not the names, that hold the crucial lesson for us. Section 1. Redefining the betrayal. Not what you think. So when we say these women betrayed their husbands, we need to clarify something right off the bat. This was absolutely not about marital infidelity. Scholars widely, unanimously agree that the wives of the prophets, even the ones who disbelieved, did not commit physical infidelity. Instead, their treason was entirely theological. It was a deep, fundamental betrayal of faith itself. They acted with this intense hypocrisy, undermining the very core of their husbands' lives. So instead of physical cheating, they basically maintained this perfect external public facade of being a prophet's wife, while internally, they were harboring deep, deep disbelief. And it was more than just quietly disagreeing. They actively assisted corrupt people against their own husbands. They lived in the same house, they literally ate at the same table, but they operated as embedded antagonists. Section 2. Sins of the Wives. The historical context. All right, let's get into the specifics. What actually constituted this betrayal? Let's look at Noah's wife first. She was essentially an internal enemy. Not only did she disbelieve his message, but as he was tirelessly building the ark, she actually joined the townspeople in openly mocking him. And even worse, she acted with this deep hypocrisy by taking the private divine revelations that happened inside their home and intentionally leaking them to the very people who were out there ridiculing her husband. She literally weaponized her proximity.
And her end? Utterly devastating. She drowned in the Great Flood. But get this, she didn't just drown alone. She went down right alongside her disbelieving son. This starkly proves that her physical proximity to Noah, again, one of the greatest prophets, meant absolutely nothing against the divine decree. Being in his house couldn't act as some kind of life raft for her lack of faith. Now, switch gears to Lot's wife. She committed treason too, but in a slightly different, though equally destructive kind of way. She completely rejected his message and stayed deeply attached to the extreme corruption of her people. But her ultimate, unforgivable betrayal was acting as an informant. When angelic guests visited Prophet Lot, she actively went out and told the corrupt townsfolk about them. She put her own household in direct, immediate danger just to side with the immoral crowd. And this brings up a genuinely terrifying lesson that scholars like Ibn Taymiyyah have pointed out, which Dr. Yunus highlights as well. Lot's wife didn't actually commit those deeply immoral acts of the townspeople herself, but she approved of them. She helped facilitate them. And in the eyes of divine justice, accepting, encouraging, or aiding a corrupt act carries the exact same weight as committing it yourself. Her approval made her equally guilty, and that is what led to her destruction. Section 3. Kinship cannot save you. The limits of blood. So, if living under the exact same roof as a prophet, eating at their table, and being legally bound in marriage couldn't save these women, what does that tell the rest of us? If we zoom out a bit, we see this universal theological law running throughout all these stories. Just look at the patterns.
Even the absolute greatest prophets were utterly powerless to save their own disbelieving relatives from divine judgment. Noah couldn't save his son from the flood. Ibrahim the patriarch could not save his own father. And even Prophet Muhammad had to explicitly warn his beloved uncle and daughter that they had to secure their own salvation. Which brings us to this incredibly powerful historical moment. Prophet Muhammad made this fiercely, undeniably clear at Mount Safa. He called out to his closest kin, his uncle Abbas, and even his beloved daughter Fatima, and he warned them directly. He told her, "O Fatima, ask me anything I'll do, but I cannot save you or avail you from Allah." His status as the final prophet could not act as a magical shield for them. They had to rely entirely on their own faith and their own deeds. And we see this played out in just devastating clarity when Noah begged to save his drowning son. As he's literally watching his son being overtaken by the waves, Noah pleaded, saying this was his family. But Allah redefined the very concept of family for him right then and there, declaring he is not from your family. Why? Because shared faith, not shared blood, is the ultimate bond. Bloodlines are totally severed if they aren't anchored by shared belief. Section 4. Righteousness by action. The ultimate takeaway. Okay, so bringing this all together, what do these ancient, unnamed women have to teach us right now, today? Distilling Dr. Eunice's powerful analysis of these source texts, we land on a few undeniable core lessons here. First, lineage is entirely void without faith. You simply cannot ride on the coattails of a righteous spouse, parent, or friend. Second, betrayal of faith, that deep-seated hypocrisy, is treated as the absolute worst kind of treason. And finally, every single soul is weighed strictly and solely by its own actions. You are the sole architect of your own outcome. Because at the end of the day, every soul is going to be taken strictly by exactly what it did or what it did not do. So I want to leave you with this final, somewhat provocative thought to just carry with you today. If even the families living under the same roof as the prophets themselves could not be fayed by sheer association, what will your own independent actions say about you when all the veils are finally lifted?